How does an artist capture what lies beyond, and yet within, a subject? Can you really film something that is both shapeless and ineffable? Andrei Tarkovsky's films are known to critics and audiences alike as both poetical and hermetic in form. He is often grouped with directors such as Robert Bresson, Yasuhiro Ozu, Ingmar Bergman, or Carl Theodor Dreyer, around what Susan Sontag called a spiritual style in filmmaking. A concept later expanded upon by Paul Schrader, who frames it as transcendental. That is to say, a type of cinema concerned with a reflective state, an inner yet otherworldly experience. But how would such a state actually look like? From the filmography of Andrei Tarkovsky, perhaps the best known example would be his 1979 sci-fi film called Stalker. The story is loosely based on the novel Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers, and follows three men who infiltrate a restricted area known as the Zone to find a room that's supposed to make their wishes come true. Although it appears like a fairly straightforward plot, the road ahead is anything but that. Filled with traps and governed by dreamlike rules, the journey through the Zone presents itself more as an internal one, rather than being strictly physical. Danger looms beyond plain sight. It appears as part of the world, yet at the same time, removed from it. It is a realm that resists being defined, or understood. People have often asked me what the Zone is, and what it symbolizes, and have put forward wild conjectures on the subject. I am reduced to a state of fury and despair by such questions. The Zone doesn't symbolize anything, any more than anything else does in my films, Tarkovsky said. It is briefly presented at the beginning as having appeared after a fall of a meteorite, and there could be certain links to a potential nuclear origin. Either way, it is something beyond man, and even if it were made by man, it is something that mankind itself cannot comprehend. To some extent, Stalker echoes our fragile understanding of the consequences tied to the science we employ, where destruction and civilization collide into a common, shared memory that transcends generations, like the archive footage of the atomic bomb in the mirror or the experiments conducted on Solaris. Surely it would be tempting to say that Tarkovsky's films simply elude meaning as a whole, at least in a conventional sense. Indeed, the narrative is far from conventional, and the editing does not fall in line with the Hollywood style of continuity. This is mainly due to the way in which Tarkovsky approaches time, or rather the impression of time. While it may sound paradoxical, it is through what Susan Sontag calls an elongation of form in this spiritual style of filmmaking, or what Paul Schrader refers to as dead time, that Andrei Tarkovsky's films draw us in. They stimulate our intellect and delay, yet in doing so, heighten our emotions.
Most movies lean towards you. They lean toward you aggressively with their hands around your throat, trying to grab every section of your attention. These type of films lean away from you, and they use time as a technique. If you're smart enough on how you use these techniques, now you're doing something really rare. You're activating the viewer. And once the viewer starts to move on his own, it's so much more powerful.
For Andrei Tarkovsky, time is of the essence. Unlike classical Hollywood directors, who cut from one image to the next to direct our attention, Tarkovsky's focus is on the temporal nature of reality, whereby our eyes are encouraged to search for something that lingers beyond the objects in the frame. This is emphasized by the frequent peripheral movement, unexpected changes in chromatic tonality, spatial temporal discontinuity, or fluctuating focus, all contributing to an oniric aura which envelops his films. By shooting in such a way, the rhythm of the film is then given by a quality intrinsic to the objects in the frame, which Tarkovsky calls time thrust or time pressure. This is similar in a way to the photogenie concept of the 1920s French Impressionist cinema, theorized by filmmakers such as Jean Epstein or Abel Gance. According to them, cinema's main strength as an art lies in the camera's ability to reveal the inner essence, spirit, or soul of things. I would describe as photogeny any aspect of things, beings, or souls whose moral character is enhanced by filmic reproduction. It's not merely about beautiful images, it's about how film can bring out a deeper emotional or metaphysical truth through purely cinematic means. Tarkovsky goes even further back than this, to Lumiere's Arrivée d'un train, as the moment where a new aesthetic principle in art was born, the ability to capture an impression of time. We may be inclined to compare Tarkovsky's focus on the raw aspects of cinema to some early Russian directors and theorists who are known for putting montage above all else, such as Kuleshov, Eisenstein, Pudovkin, or Vertov. With Soviet montage, the meaning was not found in a single shot, but emerged from the relationship between them. Andrei Tarkovsky, on the other hand, vehemently disputed such a relationship, explicitly stating that he cannot accept that editing is the main formative element of film, as the protagonists of montage cinema following Kuleshov and Eisenstein maintained in the 20s, as if film were made on the editing table. The rhythm of the film is already in the frame. In order to find it, you only need to turn the camera on and follow its natural flow, just like leaves of grass being blown by the wind. It is precisely in man's relationship with nature that Tarkovsky's version of photogeny allows itself to be captured by the camera, whether we're talking of idyllic moments, where man is in harmony with nature, or of the times he thinks himself above it and gets struck down as a result. It is within these natural parameters, in water, ice, air and fire, that reality extends itself and reveals in its multiple layers an entire world beyond. This elongation of time pressure is referenced directly in Stalker, in a passage from Lao Tzu on the plasticity and flexibility of children. People are born weak and flexible, they die strong and obdurate. A growing tree is delicate and flexible, it perishes dry and strong. Rigidity and strength are the companions of death. Weakness and elasticity express the freshness of being. What is unrigid will not be vanquished. It may not be so surprising then that Stalker's child, named Monkey, serves as the vessel where the realms of reality merge, and the nature inhabiting the zone becomes one with man. Monkey finds herself in antithesis with the world that she inhabits. As she's introduced at the beginning of the film, the sound of running trains catches our attention. She is different. We know that, if only because her mother says so. Something about the children of stalkers who have spent so long in the mysterious realm of the zone, endowing their offspring with an unusual quality from the moment that they step into the world. Monkey, as her name suggests, is not only a child. She is, in fact, at a more primordial stage in the relationship between humans and nature, a manifestation of unwavering faith, persevering where her father and his companions falter. The whole trip that the three men undertake becomes less and less about the promise of their destination, a place where people may receive what they most desire, as hinted by the previous stalker, who wished for endless fortunes, yet after losing his brother, he couldn't bear to carry on. Instead, the journey through the zone is a sort of pilgrimage of humankind, as it's hinted by Wagner's Pilgrim's Chorus from Tannhäuser, which begins to play while the Stalker leaves his house, once more against the backdrop of running trains, a symbol of the modern world, as his wife falls uncomfortably to the floor. It is a pilgrimage where the dominant aspects from the core of European civilization are challenged by the universe at large, here represented by the zone. In this sense, each of the three men who venture on this path personifies an important part of what it means to be human. We have reason in the person of the scientist, who immediately sees the zone as a threat and seeks to destroy it, all the while chatting idly with our second pilgrim, the artist. The artist, who is in this case a writer, ponders over the condition of his craft and the qualms and chasms of fame and fortune, brought about by an external force. He's questioning the values of his writing, should it become mainstream as a result of the power of the zone. At the same time, he concedes that he's completely lacking inspiration. And finally, we have Faith, shown in a dire condition, relegated to the outskirts of the world and consumed by modernity. The only joy that the Stalker can find in this world is, in fact, beyond it and bringing others along on his path. While his two companions are initially reluctant to believe in the aura of the zone, a looming threat manifests its presence over them to the point where it can no longer be ignored.
А уж мы за вами. Ну, знаете ли, я никогда сам не выбираю, я всегда боюсь. Вы не представляете себе, как это страшно ошибиться. Но ведь кто-то должен идти первым.
Да. Нет, это не клиника. Видите ли, кто-то должен идти первым. Как вам это нравится?
The three of them become trapped in a sort of a dream. They are forced to play by its rules, enveloped in the multiple folds and layers of reality within the zone. Ultimately, they begin to embrace their condition, and it is not the lack of belief which stops them from entering the Room of Wishes. Rather, they have scoured the zone, wandered through deserts in a biblical fashion in search of proof of the divine, in the form of direct intervention. And yet, the miracle that presents itself is of a far greater quality. The three men have found their inner selves through a pilgrimage into the depths of their individual nature, now in tune with nature as a whole. It is an opening of the self to the external, doubled poetically by the rain, which unexpectedly begins to pour inside the decrepit building. It mirrors the protagonist's souls as vessels, while they remain unfazed, aware of the shortcomings of the outside world, industrial in its nature. It is at this moment that Ravel's Bolero begins to play, a piece inspired by the mechanical element in factories. They then return to the bleakness of the world in which they belong, signaled chromatically by Tarkovsky with a return to the color palette from the beginning of the film. Yet, they are marked by the experience of the beyond, perhaps personified in the dog which tags along with them. The most chilling aspect of the film, however, reveals itself shortly after that. While the Stalker makes his way back home through the desolate wasteland, the chromatic palette changes back to the colourful one from the zone, and we get a close-up of Monkey's profile. She's making her way through the snow alongside her parents and their newfound dog. An eerie music begins to play, contrasting La Marseillaise, which features when Monkey is first shown, coupled with the leitmotif of running trains. La Marseillaise and the train signify here an epitome of Western modernity, as its crushing grip attempts to rise above nature. Monkey, on the other hand, is, once again, a bit different. She's inscribed in Tarkovsky's model of indivisible time, or of timelessness, in a Bergsonian way. Henri Bergson thought of time in two ways, as either conceptualized, which would be the time of the clocks, in itself standardized, ironically enough, by the running of trains, or real time, which he called duration. Duration is a lived time that flows through streams, similar to those of consciousness and music. It cannot be stopped or analyzed like the mathematical conceptions of time as a line, or true inner self, or emotions, thoughts and memories all begin to overlap, forming parts of our nature. Tarkovsky himself said that time and memory merge into each other. They are like two sides of a medal. In Stalker, Monkey embodies this duration of time, not just in human nature, but in nature as a whole. As her parents appear to have just about given up on humanity, with her father lamenting people's loss of faith, the real miracle unfolds. Tarkovsky once stated that human love is the miracle which disproves dry theories about the hopelessness of the world. It is perhaps in a similar vein that we hear the poem I Love Your Eyes Dear by Fyodor Tyutchev being recited, while we see Monkey, in close-up, about to perform the smallest and yet most astonishing miracle, which completely flips our worldview and leaves us with goosebumps.
Люблю глаза твои, мой друг, с игрой их пламенно-чудесной, когда их приподнимешь вдруг, и словно молнии небесной окинешь бегло целый круг. Но есть сильней очарования глаза потупленные ниц в минуты страстного лобзания и сквозь опущенных ресниц угрюмый, тусклый огонь желания.
Tyutchev's poem, here a nod to human sensibility, encompasses the strongest emotion of our soul, love. It is framed in antithesis with the crescendo which follows, that of Beethoven's Ode to Joy in the Ninth Symphony, a stand-in for modernity's grand illusions of triumphing over the universe, doubled once again by the now familiar leitmotif of running trains. They too shake the glasses, but pale in comparison to Monkey's display. It is through such display of love and faith, two of the greatest parts of human nature, that the world beyond crosses into our own, two different folds, layered on top of each other, just like plate tectonics. For Andrei Tarkovsky, nature is not something that can be successfully conquered. Instead, it ought to be embraced, and the miracle echoes exactly that. As the Stalker puts it, even if it's a miracle, it's part of nature, which offers at least some kind of hope. The transcendental dimension is already upon us. We only need to adjust our eyes to the world and find ourselves within it.